Okay.
So I hear, yeah. Yeah, I got
That he says.
some time ago. Already got the refund back. So,
Oh, yeah?
yeah, they were fast.
I did get my son.
Oh, that boy.
So in order to get a driver's
Another one
license,
should go on
you
your
have
back.
to have some proof of legal presence. Is that different?
LC 7 going on 13. Huh?
So until
Trying not to think about any of that. I got a haircut a couple days ago. Chopped it up. Take it easy.
Are you ready to go, Mr. Van Beek? All right. I'm calling to order the City Council regular meeting for March 17, 2021. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Byrd,
Present.
Peters, Garcia,
Present.
Trifui,
Here.
Arnsworst, Corbin, Hoekstra,
Here.
Raymond,
here.
Mayor Box.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. First item is our opening prayer, immediately followed by our Pledge of Allegiance. We've been doing this for many years. Opening prayer this evening will be by City Manager Keith Van Beek. We would ask that you would join us if you would like. Mr. Van Beek.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to stay seated just so the mic, but if everyone would, I think everyone usually stays seated. Yeah, sorry about that. It's been a while, Mike. It's been a while.
This is the one opportunity where you can tell us what to do.
For those that are so inclined, please join me in
We do
prayer.
typically stand, but
Okay.
our CGO is usually right.
So please join me in prayer if you're so inclined. Lord, thank you for being able to gather to serve the community and do the work of the city. We are encouraged by positive signs in the community, including the availability of vaccines. As we consider city business and our residents tonight, I offer this prayer by St. Francis of Assisi. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there's hatred, let me bring love. Where there's offense, pardon. Where there's discord, union. Where there is error, let me bring truth. Where there is doubt, let me bring faith. Where there is despair, let me bring hope. Where there is darkness, let me bring your light. Where there is sadness, let me bring joy. O Master, let me not seek as much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that one receives. It is in self-forgetting, getting that one finds. It is in pardoning that one is pardoned, and it is dying that one is raised to eternal life. It's in your name that we pray, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I forgot to mention at the start of the meeting, welcome back, everyone. It's good to be back in person. And for those members of the audience, we do want to remind folks that we are still operating under state rules that allow a maximum of 25 people total in the room. And we are enforcing social distancing as well as mask wearing. So we would ask that you would abide by that as well. Next item on the agenda are our consent agenda items. These items are considered to be fairly routine. They've been previously reviewed by City Council, and they will be enacted with one motion unless a member of the public or a member of council asks that an item be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. If that happens, it will be placed in its regular order on the regular agenda. So before we do that, Kathy, would you please review the consent agenda for us?
4A, absence excused, Councilmember Corbin. 4B, approval of minutes, March 3rd, virtual regular meeting, and March 10th, 2021, virtual study session with Holland Board of Public Works. 4C, oaths of office. 4D, Holland Board of Public Works, Holland Energy Park Water Treatment Room Roof Access. 4E, Holland Board of Public Works, Holland Energy Park Mezzanine Stairs, Change Order Number 1. 4F, Holland Board of Public Works, Spyglass Condominiums, AMI System Installation, License Agreement. 4G, Holland Board of Public Works, Consumers Energy Natural Gas Interconnect Agreement. 4H, Holland Board of Public Works, Broadband Premises Wiring Agreement with Downtown Place. 4I, Holland Board of Public Works, Extension to Collective Bargaining Agreement. 4J, Planning Commission, Proposed rezoning of 1895 Transport Lane from C2 Highway Commercial District to I-1 Industrial District, and rezone 1900 Transport Lane from the Agricultural District to the I-1 Industrial District for first reading, final adoption April 14, 2021. 4K, City Clerk, claims filed against the city. 4L, City Clerk, Rest Haven, non-public continuing care retirement center liquor license request, adopt resolution. 4M, Transportation Services, 2021-2022 road salt purchase.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. Would any member of the audience like to have an item removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda? Seeing none. Any member of council that would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda? Seeing none. I'll entertain a motion in regard to the consent agenda.
Motion to adopt, amenda, good grief, it's been a while. Motion to adopt agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Trethewey. Is there support for Mr. Trethewy's motion?
I'll support it
All right. Thank you, Dave.
after all that effort.
That's any discussion? Seeing none. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Byrd?
Yes.
Peters? Garcia?
Yes.
Trethewey?
Yes.
Arnsworth?
Yes.
Hoekstra?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Kathy. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Under Michigan's Open Meetings Act, every meeting of City Council and actually every public body in the state of Michigan must allow for public comment. This is an opportunity for one-way communication from the public to the public body. Gives you the opportunity for 5 minutes to talk about any subject that you would like to, but we do limit it to 5 minutes during our regular meetings, and please note this is one-way communication. We do not engage in discussion. We do not answer questions at this point, but this is your opportunity to speak to us. There are 3 lights on the dais in front of me. There's a green light, a yellow light, and a red light. Green light means you're doing well on time. Yellow light means you have 1 minute left. And the red light means that you're out of time, and we are strict about the time. So we want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to speak, and we hope that you will abide by that with us. And when you approach the podium, please state your name and address for the record. Is there anyone here who would like to address council at this time? Come right forward.
Thank you. May finish. Thank you very much. My name is Greg Castro, 248 West 13th Street, Holland, Michigan. And I'll just start where I left off. Possible benefits for a community. Michigan budget planners are counting on $1 billion per year in sales, which begins in fiscal year 2021, which runs from October 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2022. Revenues are expected to increase rapidly to $1.43 billion beginning in 2022 and eclipse $1.5 billion by the next year. Potentially hundreds of millions of tax revenues will be going into state and local governments. It provides more stable jobs, trickle-down theory, an American dream in sight for many people. According to the Marijuana Regulatory Agency's statistical report. Michigan's total sale between August 1st, 2020 and August 31st were $49,624,197. After removing the 6% sales tax and the 10% excise tax, the total state income comes to $7,939,871, which proves the program is self-sufficient with $778,404 in state expenses, for a total of $7,161,467 for the state. I reiterate the Holland Vision Statement, a vibrant world-class community in a beautiful lakefront environment where people work together, celebrate community, and realize dreams. And the Holland Mission Statement, maximize livability. An approval would allow me and others to continue our American dream. I just ask for careful consideration in this matter. Sincerely, Gregory Castro.
Thank you, Mr. Castro.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Mr. Mayor.
Have a good
Yes.
night.
Mr. Castro, before you leave, just in all fairness, because more than likely people did not join the first meeting, if you could give us just a thumbnail of what you were talking about so that people know exactly what you were referring to.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Would you like that now, thumbnail?
Oh, if you would, just a quick synopsis of what you
Oh.
spoke about at the first meeting.
Okay, very good, very good. I am looking to change the ordinance in the sales of adult marijuana in Holland, the city of Holland. And it was narrowly defeated in 2018 by a small percentage. 51% of the city of Holland voted against, 49% voted for. So there's quite a voice that needs to be heard yet, I believe, and I would love to help make this happen for Dream for me and for many people.
Great. Thank you,
very
Mr.
much.
Castro.
Thank you.
It does appear that we have some folks who are outside who want to address council, and has been our practice during COVID is that we let all of those folks from the outside who want to come in and speak, we'll have them do that, and then if there's anyone here who's in the chamber who wants to speak, they'll have the opportunity to do that after the folks from outside have had the opportunity. So, ma'am, I see you standing in the lobby there. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but if you're here to speak, please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
I'm here to interpret. She's coming to
Okay?
Pásale. Que diga su nombre y dónde vive. Su nombre y dónde vive.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Fidela y vivo aquí en Holland. ¿Empezó?
La primera y luego yo lo doy.
Okay. Movimiento Cosecha ha estado luchando por los derechos de los inmigrantes en Michigan durante 3 años y ha organizado marchas del 1 de mayo, así como campañas para abolir ICE y poner fin a la complicidad de la ciudad y el condado con ICE. En los últimos 2 años, Movimiento Cosecha ha estado trabajando en una campaña para regresar las licencias a los trabajadores indocumentados en Michigan.
Good afternoon. My name is Fidela, and I live here in Holland. We are Movimiento Cosecha, and we have been fighting for immigrant rights in Michigan for 3 years and organized May Day marches, as well as campaigns to abolish ICE and end city and county complicity with ICE. For the past 3 years, Movimiento Cosecha has been working on a campaign to return driver's license to undocumented workers in Michigan.
Todos los días, miles de padres y trabajadores inmigrantes en Michigan nos levantamos por la mañana para ir a trabajar o llevar a nuestros hijos a la escuela. Muchos tenemos que hacerlo a pie en climas fríos, utilizando el transporte público o recurriendo a pedir un aventón, porque no queremos correr el riesgo de conducir sin una licencia. Muchos corremos el riesgo y conducimos porque no tenemos otra opción, rezando para regresar a casa porque no tenemos una licencia. Ser parado por no tener una licencia puede terminar no solo en detención, sino que también en deportación. Independientemente de todo eso, estamos aquí, vivimos aquí, trabajamos aquí y continuaremos quedándonos aquí. Y mientras estemos aquí, seguiremos luchando por lo que nos merecemos. Thank you.
Every day, thousands of immigrants, parents, and workers in Michigan get up in the morning to go to work and take our children to school. Many of us have to do it in food and cold climates, using public transportation or resorting and ask for rides because we don't want to risk driving without a license. Many of us take the risk and drive because we have no other option, praying to return home because we do not have a license. Being stopped for not having a license can end up only not in detention, but in deportation. Regardless of all of that, we are here. We live here, we work here, and we continue to be here, to stay here. While we are here, we'll continue fighting for what we deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh. Thank you, Mr. Van Beek, for sanitizing the podium in between speakers. We appreciate that.
You've missed this, haven't you?
I have.
Mayor and Council.
And please come forward. And also, please state your name and address for the record.
Karina Hernández, 128 de la 31.
128 31 Street. Karina Hernández.
Pues una vez más estamos de regreso aquí en la Junta de los Comisionados de Holland para decirles que ya muchas ciudades de Michigan han pasado la resolución a favor de esta legislación, como la ciudad de Kalamazoo, la ciudad de Detroit, el condado de Washington, el condado de Kalamazoo, el condado de Oakland, la junta directiva de las escuelas públicas de Grand Rapids, la junta directiva de las escuelas públicas de Godfrey Lee y la junta directiva de educación del estado de Michigan. Todas estas entidades ya escucharon a la comunidad inmigrante y ya demostraron su apoyo.
One more time, we are here to ask for a resolution for driver's license, just like other Michigan cities have already passed resolutions in favor of legislation, such as City of Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, the City of Detroit, Washtenaw County, Kalamazoo County, Oakland County, the Grand Rapids Public School Board of Directors, the Godfrey Lee Public School Board of Directors, and the Michigan State Board of Education. All of these entities have already listened to the immigrant community y already shown their support.
Son por estas razones y más que Movimiento Cosecha Holland vino a la reunión de comisionados el año pasado para exigir que la ciudad nos apoye, pasando una resolución a favor de licencias de manejar para todos. Los miembros de Movimiento Cosecha, muchos de ellos inmigrantes que residen aquí en Holland, dieron sus testimonios describiendo lo difícil que es manejar al doctor y llevar a sus niños a la escuela sin tener una licencia. Desde entonces los comisionados no han hecho nada, ninguna resolución, pero para nosotros la necesidad no tiene espera. Nuestro sufrimiento tiene para ahora y hemos esperado más de lo suficiente. Queremos nuestras licencias de regreso ahora.
This is reason and more the Movimiento Cosecha Holland come to the commission meeting last year to demand that the city support us, passing a resolution in favor of driver's licenses for all. The members of Movimiento Cosecha and many other immigrants that are outside residing here in Holland gave their testimonies also describing how difficult it is to drive to the doctor or to their children to school without having a license. Since then, the commissioners have done nothing, no resolution. But this need cannot wait. Our suffering has to stop now. We waited long enough. We want our licenses back.
Gracias.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Van Beek. Little flair there, I like that. Yeah, please come forward. And also, please state your name and address for the record.
Mi nombre es Martín y soy del 128 West de aquí en Holland. Otra vez estamos aquí para hablar con ustedes sobre las necesidades de nosotros los inmigrantes. Aunque la ciudad de Holland no emite licencias de conducir, lo cual ya sabemos, su apoyo a la resolución de las licencias para todos sigue siendo muy importante para nosotros los inmigrantes. Pertenecemos a esta comunidad, la comunidad de inmigrantes en la ciudad de Holland, que nosotros representamos el 25% de sus habitantes de aquí de Holland. Algunos distritos escolares, los estudiantes de hijos inmigrantes representan una mayoría de su total en sus aulas. Es por eso que es importante para la ciudad de Holland que atienda las necesidades de la comunidad inmigrante en su ciudad.
My name is Martin, and I live on 128 West. And we're here one more time because the city of Holland, to hear our demands. Although the city of Holland does not issue a driver's license, we know that, your support for licenses for all resolution continue to be important as the immigrant belong to your community. The immigrant community in the city of Holland represents 25% of its inhabitants, and in some school districts, the students, the children of immigrants represent a majority in total of their classrooms. That is why it is important for the city of Holland to serve the needs of the immigrant community in their city.
La ciudad de Holland tiene que escuchar que los trabajadores indocumentados necesitan. Esta ciudad se beneficia mucho de nuestra labor. Nosotros compramos y pagamos impuestos. Nosotros hemos comprado propiedades, hemos abierto negocios y ahora empleamos a muchos trabajadores. Pero sobre todo esta ciudad nos tiene que escuchar porque antes de ser inmigrantes somos seres humanos y merecemos dignidad y respeto. La aprobación de una resolución mostrará que ustedes ven a los inmigrantes como miembros plenos e iguales de esta comunidad, con el derecho de participar y vivir en sus vidas como lo hacen todos ustedes, con seguridad, dignidad y respeto. Ahora depende de todos ustedes que nosotros los inmigrantes indocumentados en Holland tengamos las mismas oportunidades, seguridad y capacidad para vivir nuestros sueños. Muestren ustedes su apoyo pasando esta resolución.
The city of Holland needs to listen to what the undocumented workers need. The city benefits a lot from our labor. We buy and we pay taxes. We have bought properties. We have opened businesses, and now we employ many workers. But above all, this city has to listen us because before we're immigrants, we're human beings. We deserve dignity and respect. The passage of resolution from you all will show that you view immigrants as full and equal members of this community, with the right to participate in life and live their lives as everyone else does, with safety, dignity, and respect. Now it is up to you. The undocumented immigrants in Holland have the same opportunities, security, and ability to live their dreams. So show your support now by passing this resolution.
Gracias.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Oh, yes, please come forward. And would you please state your name and address for the record?
Yeah, my name is Isabel Ariola, and I live here in Holland. It's 11697 in Holland, Michigan, on Riley Street. Otro año ha pasado sin que los inmigrantes tengan el acceso a obtener licencias de conducir. El impacto que puede hacer una resolución es el de crear la confianza de sus contribuyentes que lo necesitan. Otra ciudad lo ha hecho sin titubear y la Comisión de Holland se acobarda para no estar en controversia. Ustedes pensarán que no tienen control de lo que pasa en la legislatura, pero todo lo que pasa ahí afecta a esta comunidad. Así que una resolución clara que hace la diferencia en su persona, en su puesto y en su ciudad. Me pregunto, ¿a cuántas más causas le han dado la espalda por pensar tan pequeño? Qué desilusión para los que los pusieron donde están, pues ustedes están para ayudar a su comunidad, como se lo piden y no en lo que ustedes les conviene.
Another year has passed without immigrants having access to driver's license. The impact that a resolution can make to build trust in its constituency is who we need. Other cities have done without hesitation. In the City of Holland Commission, cowardly didn't want to avoid controversy. You might think that you have no control over what happens in the legislature, where everything that happens in the legislation can affect this community. So a clear resolution that makes a difference in your person, in your position, and in your city. I wonder how many other causes you've turned their backs away, thinking so small. What a disappointment for those who have put you there. Well, you are here to help your community and the community request and not what's convenient for you.
La comunidad está de regreso en este recinto porque tiene el derecho de exigir que la ciudad de Holland tome una posición a favor de licencias de conducir para todo en Michigan. El alcalde y la comisión ha dicho que quiere que la comunidad participe más cívicamente y que la ciudad le da la bienvenida a sus habitantes inmigrantes. Sin embargo, no se atreven a pasar una resolución sobre un tema de urgencia para nosotros los inmigrantes. No están apoyando las licencias para todos. Las licencias son un primer paso para vivir con dignidad y respeto. 15 estados ya han aprobado leyes que permiten a los migrantes indocumentados obtener licencias de conducir. Hasta el 2008, Michigan permitió esta práctica. La gobernadora Weimer ha indicado que ella y su administración apoyan licencias para todos. Que Holland no sea el último en la fila para hablar por la comunidad migrante. Muestren su apoyo ahora pasando esta resolución.
The community is back here because it has the right to demand that the city of Holland take a stand in favor of driver's license for everyone in Michigan. The mayor and the commission has said that they want the community to be more involved civically, and the city welcomes its immigrant residents. However, you don't dare pass a resolution on an issue that is so urgent for us immigrants. You are not supporting driver's licenses for all. Licenses are the first step to live with dignity and respect. 15 states have already passed laws that allow undocumented immigrants to obtain driver's licenses. Until 2008, Michigan allowed this practice. Governor Whitmer has indicated that she and her administration supports licenses for all. May Holland not be the last one in line to speak out in favor of its immigrants community. Show your support now by passing this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you and God bless you all.
Thank you. And would you please state your name and address for the record?
Ana Rodriguez, Holland area. Es ahora, en este momento, que la comisión puede mostrar que le importa lo que la comunidad indocumentada le pasa. La comunidad inmigrante no se siente segura no teniendo una licencia y temen transportarse a sus lugares de trabajo. Queremos manejar sin miedo. Es ahora, en este momento, que el alcalde y los comisionados pueden actuar y pasar una resolución a favor de las licencias para todos. Ustedes nos dijeron que quieren que los habitantes inmigrantes de esta ciudad se sientan bienvenidos. Y nosotros les decimos que para sentirnos seguros y bienvenidos en la ciudad de Holland necesitamos una licencia de conducir. Hasta este momento, la ciudad de Holland no ha mostrado ninguna acción que nos diga que nos apoya a nosotros los inmigrantes. La última vez que estuvimos aquí, quisieron detener nuestros testimonios. Y ni siquiera nos dieron interpretación. Nosotros, como hoy, también tenemos que ser nuestros propios intérpretes. En esa reunión, trabajadores inmigrantes contaron sus historias de que tan difícil se les hace tener una vida cotidiana sin una licencia. Algunos de los que testificaron casi llorando, mostrando el miedo que tienen al manejar sin licencia. ¿Y qué hicieron los comisionados? Nada.
It is the moment that the commission can show that it cares what the undocumented community happens to them. The immigrant community does not feel safe without a license, and they fear transporting themselves to their workplaces. We want to drive without fear. It is now, at this time, that the mayor and the commissioners that can act and pass a resolution in favor of driver's licenses for all. You told us that you want the immigrant inhabitants of this city to feel welcome, and that we tell you that in order to feel safe and welcome in this city of Holland, we need a driver's license. So far, the city of Holland has not shown any actions that tell us that it's in support of us, the immigrants. The last time we were here, they were trying to discourage us for us to give our testimonies, and you didn't even give us interpretation. We had to be our own interpreters. At that meeting, immigrant workers told their stories and how difficult it is from them to their daily lives without a license. Some of those who testified were almost in tears, showing their fear of driving without a license. And what did the commissioners do? Nothing.
Okay, thank you. And would you please state your name and address for the record?
Thank you. Muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Rocío Urbina y vivo en el 523 Barnett Drive. Seguimos en la lucha. Hay un dicho muy sabio que dice, solo el que trae los zapatos puestos sabe cuál le aprieta más. La comisión no tiene empatía por el miedo legítimo de un inmigrante. Ese miedo viene de las experiencias de sus familiares, amigos y hasta esposos porque han sido detenidos por la policía y han terminado en separación de sus seres queridos por deportaciones. ¿Cómo se atreve una persona que nunca ha experimentado la vergüenza de ir a la Secretaría del Estado a pedir una licencia y que nunca le van a negar porque su privilegio le permite tener un número de seguro social al momento de nacer? No tiene una resolución en sus manos y la aprobación de una resolución y solo ha estado sentado o sentada en una silla del comisionado.
There is a very wise saying that only who wears the shoes knows which one is tighter. The commission has no empathy for an immigrant's legitimate fear. This fear comes from the experiences of their families, friends, and even their spouses, because they have been detained by the police and have ended up being separated from their loved ones due to deportations.
Este hecho demuestra primero que la comisión no tiene la menor humanidad de tratar con dignidad y respeto al otro ser humano al escuchar sus sentimientos de miedo, y lo demuestra el hecho de poseer unos documentos que su privilegio le han otorgado.
Escuchen muy bien, comisionados, los que tienen sus zapatos muy cómodos y no les aprieta ninguno. El punto se trata de que el inmigrante no tiene el acceso a una licencia y las necesitamos ahora. La comisión también tiene que hacer su trabajo y representar a sus habitantes trabajadores inmigrantes que viven en esta linda ciudad de Holland. Y representar significa escuchar las exigencias de una comunidad. Representar significa actuar en favor de esta comunidad. Representar significa pasar una resolución a favor de las licencias para todos. Gracias.
This fact shows first that the Commission does not have the least humanity to treat another human being with dignity and respect when listening to their feelings of fear, and this is demonstrated by the fact that you have the power or the documents of privilege. Listen very well, commissioners, those who have their shoes very comfortable and none of them tight. The point is that the immigrant does not have access to driver's license, and we need them now. The commission also has to do its job of representing its immigrant workers living in this beautiful city of Holland. And representing means listening to the demands of this community. Representing means acting in favor of this community. Representing means passing a resolution in favor of driver's licenses for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have to get one that doesn't honk while I squirt it.
Well, that's how we know that you're actually working. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Angel Lopez Dominguez, 347 Washington Boulevard. I'm here just to remind us that we are part of the community. This invisible community of immigrants, we contribute to this beautiful city of Holland. We're Dutch in many ways. We contribute to this. I think we have an opportunity to welcome the immigrant community by giving them a name, a face, identity. You have an opportunity for all of us to be part of this beautiful city. I just want to give you an image of how I believe, how I see this city. The image is a warehouse or a big house that we have here. So many houses, so many big houses here, so many of them with a lot of doors. You can enter and you can get out. We claim that we are a city of law and order, and we see this on the TV. But when there is a door that you can enter, but if you don't have a license, that door, even that there is a door in there, we cannot open it. We cannot be part of this big house. We cannot enter in this place. So I just want to give you that. We want to be part of this city. We want to enter in this city. We want to put our name and be part of this city. We want to be part of this law and order, but you are closing the door for us. Thank you very much for listening our words. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please come forward. And would you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is AJ Westendorp. I live at 275 West 16th Street. I work at Escape Ministries, where we intervene in the lives of youth who fall through the cracks. And I wonder about those cracks, so we can do remedial services for the people who fall through those cracks, and or we can do the work to fill the cracks. I've got a few kids standing outside who have been kicked out of school before. They've made mistakes that they've made, but statistically, youth are much more likely to thrive if their parents and their families can thrive and stay together. I have students in our program whose parents are undocumented. They live in Holland. Some of them do seasonal work. They live in a hotel. I have multiple students whose parents have been deported, and you wonder why they're kicked out of school. You wonder why they act out in school. You wonder why they have anger and depression and anxiety that they don't know what to deal with when they're forced to grow up without their dad. A driver's license helps prevent some of those unnecessary deportations and keep families together. It helps keep young people and families thriving. Holland is such a great place to raise a family, right? But for who? For me it was. For my white middle-class family over just west of Grafskup by 32nd Street. It's a great place to raise a family. But it's not that way for all my friends and my students. And that's hard to see. So as a community, will we be a community who provides remedial services for those who fall through the cracks? Or will we be a community that fills the cracks? To put a metaphor out there, we can keep suffering those pesky mechanic bills when we have to bring the car in for broken axles and flat tires all the time for running over potholes. Or, as the city is very familiar with, you can fill the potholes. People get a lot happier. The cracks in our society affect everybody, not just the people who run over the potholes. Father Greg Boyle of Homeboy Industries in LA says, there's no us and them, just us. And if we see our common humanity, this helps us see this in a better light. Because what affects the students' parents also affects the students, affects their opportunities, affects their identity, affects what they believe about the world. And I wonder if they can trust people, if they can trust that the law is just and therefore worth following all the time. At Escape, we've recently launched a driver's training scholarship program for youth to help young people in difficult situations get the opportunity to get driver's training so they can, those who are usually the ones with less opportunities, can get jobs, drive their siblings to school, participate in sports as teenagers, and help them thrive. To imagine living without a license as an adult is unthinkable. Besides the practical side of things and all the things that can't be done without a license, it results in shame, it results in hesitance to approach and trust authority, government, service providers, employers, school administration, or anybody. The shame on us if we allow that reality to continue for many families in Holland and across our state. So I urge the city, as a representative of students and families who have been kept voiceless and who mean a lot to me, to give our undocumented brothers and sisters the opportunity to be identified and to legally drive. These are our people, and they get to live here too, Mr. Mayor. So will we urge the state to pave a way for them and their kids to have a basic means to survive and thrive? I sure hope so. Thank you.
Thank you. And would you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes. Good evening. My name is Sarah Yor Van Osterhout. I'm a resident of 129 East 22nd Street, Holland, Michigan. I'm also the founder and managing attorney at Lighthouse Immigrant Advocates, a nonprofit immigration law office and advocacy center here in Holland. As a Holland resident and advocate, I've been extremely disappointed with the council's response to Movimiento Cosecha Holland and their request for a letter of resolution on the Drive Safe bill. This group has been discouraged from attending these public meetings, greeted nearly every time by City Manager Keith Van Beek, who reiterates a message of unwelcomeness, going so far as to send a private Facebook message from his personal Facebook account to Karina, one of the leaders for Movimiento Cosecha, and I have a copy of that with me today. He sent it on September 1, 2020, and in his message he stated, and I quote, "Council has a rule that they will not adopt any resolution." What Keith Van Beek fails to mention in his personal message is that according to the City Council meeting minutes from January 8, 2020, quote, Council adopted Resolution R 2020.02 in support of the reinstatement of the state historic tax credits. The Holland City Council does, in fact, vote on and approve resolutions in support of state legislation when they feel such legislation impacts city residents. The distinction here is that Movimiento Cosecha represents disenfranchised residents who have no power to vote you out of office when you don't represent their interests. Notably, in the past, the council has thrust this no resolution policy at groups when it involves issues that impact people of color, immigrants, and other historically marginalized members of our community, such as the 2017 request for a resolution on DACA. This looks really bad for the council. Based on your arbitrary application of this no resolution policy thus far, it seems you conveniently disregard it when it benefits wealthy white members of our community who have the power to influence campaigns and donations. This might be interpreted under the Elliott-Larsen Act as discrimination on the basis of national origin. If we want to debate jurisdiction, I would argue the resolution in support of the reinstatement of the state historic tax credits, which was approved without debate, has less bearing on Holland residents than the resolution I urge you to adopt today. The resolution in support of the Drive Safe bill is about the city using its power and collective voice to support legislation that would benefit all Holland residents, regardless of their immigration status or ability to vote. The city makes ordinances with regard to traffic violations and rules of the road and spends taxpayer dollars to make improvements to roadways and pay the salaries of public safety officials who enforce these ordinances. It goes without saying, but suggesting this issue is outside of the city's jurisdiction is pretty far off the mark. In December 2019, Mayor Box attended a meeting with the Faith Leaders for Justice. At that meeting, Mayor Box spoke about his plans to pursue civil rights protections for the LGBTQ population, advocate for affordable housing, and bring diverse and often underrepresented voices to the table. And he often uses the hashtag #OneHolland and #UnHolland, which feels like mere lip service given recent council actions. On October 21, 2020, Mayor Box had an opportunity to make good on this promise to listen to the voices of an underrepresented population. As early as August 2020, Mayor Box could have invited Movimiento Cosecha to his table to have further conversations about their driver's license concerns and better understand their perspectives. But no invitations were ever extended, and instead, the mayor and city council walked out and silenced the chants of Movimiento Cosecha on official recordings, all because their voices were uncomfortable and didn't fit within the approved official model of communication. Expecting diverse voices to come to you and adhere to your rules and traditions and accommodate your comfort standards is not diplomacy. That's an expectation of people with white privilege. Diplomacy, especially when working with underrepresented populations, is seeking out those voices where they feel most comfortable, meeting people at their table, using the mayor's words from 2019. Real leadership and real change and progress does not come from continually asking underrepresented individuals to appear at the table of those in power. It comes when those in power finally step away from their table and seek to understand and experience life through the lens of those not in power. At their base, quibbles about jurisdiction have no relevance when it comes to resolutions. Such arguments are instead a politically expedient move on an issue that at heart really is not controversial and has universal community benefits in public safety, economy, and health and well-being. We as voters elected a mayor and city council members to represent our interests, political or otherwise. Stating that the council will not vote on resolutions is like saying they will not take positions.
Mr. Mayor, that's 5 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And would you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, Ann Henriksen from Zealand, and I have a doctor's permission to take my mask off just for medical reasons. Is that all right?
We'd rather that you didn't, but if you have the doctor's note, I
do. Okay.
Certainly.
The City of Holland has, as Mayor Box states, a comprehensive ordinance of anti-discrimination Reverend Jen Adams, the founder of Holland is Ready movement, states it is much more than an LGBT anti-discrimination ordinance. Councilman David Hoekstra pointed out that at the preliminary discussions of the ordinance, in section 25(9)B, interpretation, this ordinance shall permit the free exercise of religion as the First Amendment to the United States and the Michigan Constitution. Holland's anti-discrimination ordinance is punitive and, according to the wording, will liberally exercise the consequences. There is a majority of citizens, not just the Dutch, but all ethnicities in Ottawa County, who courageously embrace their faith in Jesus, declaring who they believe in. I came tonight to talk about this, but as I was standing outside, I happened to be the one distributing Jesus is Lord over Ottawa County. And I wrote an op-ed in the Sentinel, actually asking that if that sign offended anybody, I apologize for it, because it was produced by the Ottawa County prayer intercessors for the sake of our faith and our religion. It was challenged that it was not inclusive. There was a second article, and that's what I came to talk about tonight. I wrote an op-ed concerning religious discrimination by the Sentinel and how many times they have slided in this, that, or the other, and in this case they did. But I, standing out there, made a decision to talk about something else. And that's the ordinance. And the young lady before you, this is a whole different thing. I was here every single time these people came. And I know it is a matter of protocol and laws that you have in place. But you have an ordinance. And that ordinance says what it says. And I hope that you listen carefully to these people. I was here every single night when we heard the LGBT sitting here. And it's interesting that so many of the things that they talked about were what you're hearing from these people. They didn't feel welcome. Their children were discriminated against. They couldn't have this, they couldn't have housing, they couldn't have that. They really touched your hearts. And it was clear from the get-go you'd made up your mind that that was going to be an ordinance. And you did it. Now support it. These people need support. And however you need to do it, you have the compassion to do it. If you had it for one group, you can have it for this one as well. Actually, I trust you with that, just watching how you work. So do it. Everyone should be able to live here.
Thank you. And would you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Jacob Vanderst, and I live at 40 East 16th Street. In the past few years, a cultural movement has changed the face of climate action. Blame for carbon levels once seemed to sit solely on the consumer, but now we look toward industry producers as well. After all, 83% of Holland's carbon footprint comes from industry rather than citizens. Many have wondered how industry will respond. Well, I have good news to report. In Michigan, our commercial industries are taking initiative in addressing climate change. As we look to recent headlines, Michigan business leaders have set in motion timely and ambitious energy plans. Two of Holland's major employers, Kraft Heinz and Steelcase, have publicly declared their pursuit toward carbon neutrality. Their efforts are based on those proposed by the Science Based Targets initiatives, whose mission seeks to, quote, drive climate action in the private sector by enabling companies to set science-based emissions reductions targets, end quote. A goal that Kraft Heinz has established includes, quote, procuring the majority of their electricity from renewable industries for all facilities globally by 2035. Or actually by 2020, excuse me, end quote. This goal would include the facility stationed on the shores of Lake Macatawa here at Holland, Michigan. As a member of the Hope College cross-country team, I run past this facility multiple times a week. And it is reassuring that they are taking strides towards sustainability by investing in renewable energy. Steelcase has modeled an equally ambitious energy plan, promising not just to become carbon neutral, but carbon negative, and they aim to reach that goal by 2030. But the news doesn't stop there. West Michigan also holds stake in the automotive industry, which employs a number of our citizens, from those working at Gentex to LG Chem. General Motors made headlines when they promised to produce only electric cars by 2035, and Ford has done the same. Ford's 2020 sustainability report promised investments in locally sourced renewable energy. They made their stance clear on climate change by saying, quote, "Climate change is a global challenge that affects us all. In response, we aspire to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050, end quote. Ford is ready to take action. Our local automotive industries will undoubtedly follow suit. And my future automotive purchases will be dictated by which companies develop the most environmentally friendly vehicles. Therefore, I'm proud of Ford for stepping up and taking action. The strategic development team of Holland has repeatedly said that they want to make a plan that meets the needs of businesses and companies. Well, those companies have spoken, and they are making committed goals towards sustainability. It's time for Holland's community energy plan to match this ambition. We need you, City Council, to publicly declare a goal to reduce carbon emissions by 50% every 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you. If you would like to speak, please come forward. And would you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, my name is Marlon Barrios, and my address is 8895 146th Avenue, West Olive, Michigan, 49460.
Go right ahead.
All right, thank you so much. So thank you, first of all, for, allowing me to talk in front of you guys. And I'm sorry, I'm really sentimental. I have a small heart, but a lot of words to say to you guys. And I'd like to ask you all to please help my mom, my dad, my aunts, uncles that are outside, to please provide licenses for all of our parents. I'm tired of my parents being scared to drive. I work in agriculture, and I am part of the human resources payroll administrator. And I've watched so many immigrants migrate with just one driver from Florida, from Texas to Michigan to provide blueberries. And I think a lot of people like blueberries, so I'm so thankful for them. And I've witnessed a lot of sad stories with migrant children that are not able to, have their parents drive to nearby stores. And I've had to provide for them, had to buy them snacks, food, everything, because their parents cannot drive. And I'm just asking all of you guys to please help us. I know you guys have a big heart. I know Nathan Box, your daughter, Megan. I've known her for a long time. And I'm just asking you guys to please help us. I know you guys can, and I'm pretty sure you guys will try your best to help us out. And so just please do whatever you can. My parents have been here for about 30 years, and they're still fighting to try to legalize. My aunt is actually currently in a legalizing, her paperwork to just go to Mexico, get her papers, and just be able to work legally to help you guys out. And I'm pretty sure more jobs will be available, and it'll just be more safe for us to get out, to be able to have fun, to take a road trip down to Florida, Texas, wherever we can, because as many of you guys know, I'm pretty sure many have been to Florida, and it's somewhere that my parents have never even seen, even though we see pictures and all that. So I'm hoping one day we can take a road trip down south and be able to just have family time and not be afraid to be stopped by a police person or, officials that have safety in mind for all of us. And I'm just asking you all to please help us out. And I'd really be thankful if you guys could. And that's all I got to say to you guys.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? Please come forward. And please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Eric Schumann, and my address is 84 East 15th Street. I'd like to thank the Holland City Council for allowing residents like myself to speak at these meetings. As a Hope College senior, I've had the amazing privilege to receive a breadth of knowledge on how my actions and worldview impact not just myself and others, but the environment around me. I was also dealt the incredible opportunity to study and broaden what you may know as the Green City of Germany, Freiburg, and Breisgau in the fall of 2019. In my studies of the language and area, I suddenly came across a huge realization. The United States is not acting quickly enough to address and counteract climate change. Being a global citizen and having Holland be my home for the last 4 years, it is my responsibility to strongly encourage that the Holland Community Energy Plan be changed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to 10 megatons of CO2 emissions per person per year by 2030. In Freiburg, it was much faster and more accessible to enter and exit the city if you rode a bike. In the city, walking areas were filled by the amount of bikes that were attached to bike racks, and when no more bike racks were available, they were tied to metal fences. Although Holland has a clear commitment to make downtown accessible, I feel that the $6.7 million investment in 2018 for a new parking deck for cars could have been allocated in a better way. Instead, I feel that we could have used those funds to face the most intense levels of inaccessibility downtown. Or we could have focused on further reducing carbon emissions by investing in public transportation. Some examples of future sustainable investments include more bike lines and bike-friendly streets, more electric vehicle charging stations, the implementation of a scooter or bicycle sharing program, and more affordable and accessible public transportation. Last spring, I saw the entire country of Germany achieve its goal to produce more than half of its energy using renewable technologies. The state of Michigan utilizes renewable energy to source 10% of its energy, whereas Holland's Board of Public Works currently sources 16% of its energy from renewable sources. It is evident that Holland's efforts outweigh most of the state of Michigan, but I believe that Holland can push even harder to use a higher proportion of renewable energy. Although I've only provided 2 examples as for why sustainability efforts in Germany have outdone Holland, there are so many more areas I feel the city of Holland has improved in and can further improve in. In almost every city in Germany, it is easier and more environmentally friendly to get around than what it currently is in Holland. And they accomplish this by proportionally sourcing 3 times more renewable energy than Holland. Even though I've enjoyed living in Holland throughout college, I want my home in Michigan to be as green as my home in Germany. And I'll always feel a little less at home here until they accelerate the carbon goals laid out in the community energy plan and make Holland a healthier, greener city. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? Ed, would you please state your name and address for the record?
Yeah, my name is Killian Roach. I'm a resident of Grand Rapids, living on 1650 Leonard Street Northeast. I'm a former resident of Ottawa County, both Holland, where I grew up, and Allendale, where I attended college. And I serve as a co-founder of an up-and-coming environmental organization in the area, Lakeshore Environmental Restoration Coalition. I want to thank all of you for your continual care and maintenance of the city, but unfortunately, if more is not done, your work will not be enough. Though switching to natural gas was a step forward for the Holland energy needs, it didn't phase out the use of coal, nor does it provide possibility to reach net zero or negative emissions. The City of Holland must take more aggressive target for the community energy plan. This is why I support Holland Climate Collaborative's goal of cutting 50% of greenhouse gas emissions per every 10 years. The sooner the emissions are cut, the less we must worry about the future. Climate change has already caused displacement greatly among our coastal states, forcing relocation to more reliable environments. You all must consider how much of a safe haven the lakeshore cities are to those being displaced, with its network of school districts, growing economy, freshwater access, and available agriculture. This poses as a public safety issue to the City of Holland. Where I understand the importance of welcoming people in need with open arms, without proper action, the city could reach its threshold, as has happened in several regions that have acted as refuge to those escaping war and climate catastrophe. We live in an advanced age where it is easier to respond to increased populations, but given the state of the global climate, we could face imminent supply issues to this community. The local translates to global. What you do in Holland will have a ripple effect on the surrounding cities, states, and countries. Though this may constitute a drastic change, it is not out of reach. My generation and those after are now wondering if you will be the ones to take the leap of faith towards a sustainable future. We represent the up-and-coming leaders of the cities, states, and the country. We will be given the opportunity to positively influence our citizens and the globe. But we worry that we will be stuck cleaning up the mess of your generation and those before you. Climate change is no longer a debate. We have been monitoring it for decades now, and we are living in the age of consequences. While blind eyes are turned in efforts to not greatly affect business as usual, the youth is terrified of the losses that come with this ignorance. I urge you all to think of how your actions will impact the newer generations, your children and their children. As we move towards the City Council's vote on the Community Energy Plan at the end of April, we are in need of radical pro-environmental change, and you have the opportunity to catalyze it. Adjusting the energy goal to reduce emissions by 50% per person within the next decade gives a target that can be achieved through public transportation development, sustainable building codes, renewable energy sources, public education, and environmental impact taxes, as well as environmental restoration. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak for all of you, and thank you for the work that you have done thus far. I hope it is enough for the future.
Thank you. And is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? And would you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Peter Bogart. Live at 235 North Lindy Street in Zeeland. However, tonight I'm here representing Hope Church in Holland. Prior to making any comments, I just wanted to say a word of thanks to all of you who served the city. Sitting here tonight, just as an observer, it was pretty clear to me this isn't necessarily an easy job. And you have expectations that come at you from all sorts of directions, and somehow have to sort through all of that. So for the steady work most of you have done for years and years and years, I want to say thank you. But I have a letter here I'd like to read from the consistory at Hope Reformed Church. Deals also again with a climate change issue. As a community of faith, Hope Church sees the world as a remarkable gift from God, the Creator, to be received with wonder. In gratitude, we have a responsibility to care for all of God's creation, as the opening chapters of our scriptures tell us that humankind was charged with serving and protecting the earth. We join with all people of faith and goodwill and gratitude in care for this world. We recognize also that caring for creation will be difficult. Knowing the right thing to do isn't always obvious. As people of faith, we believe that we must be guided by the best available knowledge and willing to make changes when wisdom reveals the need to do so. We believe that the uniform consensus among climate scientists compels us to act. The use of fossil fuels has set in motion a trajectory of global change, which, if maintained, will have devastating consequences for both our planet and its peoples. We believe that as a community, the City of Holland has both the responsibility and the means to meet this challenge. Therefore, we call on the City of Holland City Council to endorse and act upon the following. The Holland City Council acknowledges the reality of changing climate poses an existential threat to our quality of life. The use of fossil fuels is driving that threat. Immediate action is required to meet the threat. Meeting the threat requires designed and intentional public policy. Public policy and resources must be deployed in a just and equitable manner which benefits all citizens. The City of Holland will reevaluate its community energy plan to accommodate the most recent science, set a community energy plan goal which will have the city's greenhouse gas emissions by 50% each decade until 2050, and integrate greenhouse gas reduction goals into all facets of city programming. And that is signed by the consistory from Hope Reformed Church. So thank you for your attention here tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, would you like me to leave this with the clerk?
It's part of the packet. The
Okay.
council already received it.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, it is the same thing that was sent as part of the e-public. Yes, we do have that then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here who would like to address council? Seeing none, I will close the public comment period. And I'll allow Mr. Van Beek a moment to clean. He's so efficient. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Van Beek. Next item on the agenda, item number 6, special presentations and recognitions from mayor or council or city manager. Is this one from you or from me, Mr. Van Beek?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to pass it to you then.
We would like to welcome to the podium Superintendent Brian Davis from Holland Public Schools. This follows a practice that we've had before when there is a item that going on a millage in the community that we give an opportunity, if so desired, to come before you and just give a presentation. So,
And this is just for a presentation. We're not being asked for any action here at all.
Correct.
Okay. Welcome, Brian.
None whatsoever. Thank you, Mayor Box, council members, and special thanks to Councilmember Ehrenhorst and Raymond in honor of Women's History Month for your leadership and service to the community and serving as role models for our young women in our schools. Appreciate that. It's hard to believe that 11 years ago, I was here in this chamber talking with you about an incredible opportunity that we would have. It was called Build 21. It was to invest in our schools like we hadn't invested in decades. It was to provide energy efficiency we heard about tonight. We have a geothermal exchange heating and cooling system at our Holland High campus serving about 240,000 square feet. It was about 21st century learning. It was about creating safe and secure learning environments for the resident children of our schools here in the city. Some said, Brian, you're out of your mind, it can't be done. And others had a dream and a vision to do it. And by a 60 to 40% margin, we passed the millage. It was a $74 million bond request. It came following the 2008 depression and recession in our state, 14% unemployment in our city. But there was a conviction and a commitment to our public schools. Here I am 11 years later to talk about Build 2021. This is an opportunity for us to continue on the work that we identified as part of our master planning between 2008 and 2010. At that time, we identified over $140 million in projects. I knew at that point in time, with the wisdom of my dad, to say there was no way I could ask to not only double the school debt in our community, but to, in fact, make it 3 or 4 times what it was. I just knew that wasn't just a reality. So we find ourselves at a moment in time where a lot of the school debt associated with the construction of East Middle School back in the 90s will fall off the tax roll this summer. Rather than going to the community and saying, I'd like to increase our tax rate in the city for school debt, what would happen if we could reduce it by 0.25 mils, extend it for 10 years, and generate another $74 million that would finish our school construction projects? Positioning Holland Public Schools, your largest school district in the community, of historical significance to further advance education for our schools. 175 years. I'm the 3rd longest seated superintendent. I'll probably guarantee to you this will be the last time I come before council to ask for a millage request as I retire in June. That all being said, the investment then significantly impacted, as many of you know, on graduates of Holland High School, that campus. That was about a little over half of that request. This request is to improve our elementary schools. I know how important it is to this council of our elementary schools and the neighborhoods in which they reside. Unfortunately, some of our elementary schools were built as a middle school, west. Holland Heights was built back in the 1950s. I have a second grade teacher who's been teaching with us for 26 years, who is teaching in the exact same classroom she went to school as a second grader. That gives you a little bit of perspective of our facilities and what we need to do. So Build 2021 is going to be before the voters on May 4 to look at new K-5 learning spaces, specifically at Holland Heights and at West. We have an incredible partnership with businesses, the Outdoor Discovery Center, and others who are willing to significantly invest and transform that school location at Holland Heights to revitalize a neighborhood where a significant number of families have unfortunately exited to other school districts. We want to be able to continue to invest in instructional technology. As you and I have all faced COVID-19, our world has changed in terms of how we need to do business and construct that. I now have to provide instruction not only in face-to-face, but as consumer-driven markets will demonstrate and probably show, I'm also going to have to provide online learning to continue in the future too. So we want to be able to do that. And we've also learned a lot about health and safety requirements under COVID-19. So we want to make sure that we're providing an infrastructure that supports those components too. We're able to do this by reducing the actual debt collection and renewing that for a period of time without having to do any increase to our taxpayer. If you were to look at the information that was provided in your packet, just did a one-page document, didn't bring the 20-point slideshow tonight for you, but you can see where in 2021 there would be a savings if we didn't renew. To a home that has a market value of $100,000, that savings would be $79 a year. I'm asking for us to reduce it by 0.25, still save you $12.50 per year, and be able to generate this $74 million. What an incredible opportunity. It's something that has been done in West Ottawa. It's something that has been done in Zeeland and other communities nearby. The other incredible opportunity about this, if you look at the information provided, is we would sell these bonds in 3 different series. The first series in 2021, 2 years later in 23, and 2 years later in 25, affording the greatest flexibility to take what we've learned during COVID-19, to take what we've learned in research in terms of best instructional practice, to be able to engage neighborhoods and communities in a lengthy period over time and phase those projects in. You can see the focus there. The other piece that we're going to be doing is significant investment, should this pass, in our elementary playgrounds. We've learned over time, and especially as kids have not been able to get outside and play and exercise all those things in the ways they have before, the importance of those green spaces. I know that's important as part of your master plan. And it's important to develop those spaces with partners like Outdoor Discovery Center that really includes those nature-based natural landscapes. Not more concrete, not more plastic slides, but ways in which students can really engage with those components as well. So what I wanted to share with you tonight is just basically the request before our voters. I believe it's the only thing on the ballot in the city of Holland. Absentee ballots go out in a couple of weeks. You'll probably get yours in the mail if you have signed up to do so. You should also receive some additional information. We have a website dedicated to this for our Build 2021. You can go in and learn more about it. You can actually put in the state equalized value of your home, and it will tell you exactly what your taxes likely would be reduced to and by as we move forward. So 11 years after we had Build 21, I'm here to talk about Build 2021. It helped save us a little bit on branding there. You like how we put that 21 in there again? And if you have any questions, I'm happy to ask them or answer them. Otherwise, I am conscious of the amount of time of your meeting tonight and your other agenda items. Please feel free to forward those to City Manager Van Beek, and I would be happy to bring those back to you. But I'm happy to entertain any questions at this time.
Questions? Mr. Trethewey.
Brian, I'm hesitating on even bringing this up. But before you spread this out, this piece of paper, please check your math.
Please check what?
Your math.
The math? I will do that again. It's been reviewed by legal counsel 3 times, the architects twice, and bond counsel as well. But we will do the math.
Unless my calculator is wrong, there is an error there that probably should be fixed. So.
We will certainly take that back to the people that we paid to have that, make sure that didn't happen. Mr. Trethewey, if you'd like to become part of our bond council, we may have a job for you. But thank you.
Not a lawyer, and I don't play one on TV.
Appreciate that.
Any other questions for Brian? Yeah, Quincy.
Well, I had a the question that I have, I see buses, transportation for 3 generations, for 21, 23, 25. How many buses do we currently have?
We have about 17 to 21 buses that we have on fleet, ranging in size from our full capacity 77 passenger buses to buses that provide more specialized transportation, lifts, for example, to accommodate wheelchairs. And the reason why you want to not purchase those all in the same cycle, obviously, is you don't want your entire fleet going off at the same time. So that's why. And Councilmember Byrd, I know you had another question about why now. I explained that question. In addition to the brief chart that is there on your chart, the millage rate will drop again in 2027 and again in 2035. The biggest drop in 2027 will be when bonds from the 2010 bond will actually be paid off. So taxpayers would see a gradual decrease over that same time period.
Any other questions? Quincy, yeah.
Not done yet. So they said you were nuts and out of your mind 11 years ago, right?
Some did, yes.
You still get that sentiment from people this year? Or what's your feeling on this year?
The sentiment from people this year is you've demonstrated phenomenal stewardship of the resources we provided to you. We see the impact of the campus of Holland High School. We see the curb appeal that you've continued to provide. Parents have been overwhelmingly pleased with the way we've responded with instructional technology, and I think they've seen that more so during the past school year of COVID-19. As we talk with parents, as I've hosted meetings on this, there are a few more coming up, it just simply makes sense to individuals. You can do this, generate that kind of revenue without asking me to increase what I'm currently paying. I can actually have a decrease. Some liken it, although I wouldn't use these words. It's kind of like I refinanced my home for a lower interest rate. It just expands out for a period of time. We're not refinancing anything. I want to make that clear. We're selling new bonds, but we're able to do that by reducing the overall debt collection.
So I'm a big advocate for all of this. During COVID, my kids, go to Holland Public, and it was very clunky initially rolling out all of the work from home or work at home schooling. And I guess I look at how that progression was made and how rapidly it was made. I'm pretty impressed with that. There's some people who still struggle with it. One of the things from a parent's point of view is, I guess, streamlining how they do it. This teacher A will log on a little differently than teacher B, and teacher C will log on a little differently. So all of that. So I don't know if that's something that you guys look at or not, but I would encourage you to do that. And thank you for your service to the public school. Thank you for your service.
It's my pleasure. I'm the third longest serving superintendent now in the history of the school district of 177 years. And 21 years in the community serving in Holland. And it's been a pleasure. We're not done yet though, May 4th. And then we got to design, and then we got to do. So, but to Quincy, to respond to the other point, I appreciate the feedback. March 16, yesterday, 3 days before that, the governor closed schools. And on a dime, we had to try to figure out what do we do. And we were up and running within 2 weeks of that. And you're right, it was clunky. There were a lot of bumps in the road, as there was for schools across the country. I'd like you to just, on that point, to recognize your public school district, as well as your charter schools in the city, as well as your private schools, have been open every single day we've been allowed to be open. That can't be true in other cities and municipalities in the state.
Thank you.
And it can't be true, it's not true for other states in the country. So we've done really hard to serve you well and to keep our kids safe. I firmly believe that during COVID, schools were the safest place for them to be. Less than 3% just over 3% of our students have actually contracted COVID-19. We've had only 2 school-related cases. And so the efforts that we've done to do that to keep our kids safe has been great. And we want to continue that wellness and safety moving forward with air purification systems and all those kinds of things you're very well aware of. So, but with that, I want to honor and respect your time. Unless any more questions, please feel free. My good friend and partner here in service, Mr. Van Beek, would be happy to get additional information to you. And I will go back and double check my math.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Brian, I just want to echo what Quincy said. I did not personally have the honor of going through the Holland Public School System.
I'm so sorry.
I know. But my wife did, and you know very well my kids did. I first met you as an elementary school principal at Lakeview when our son Duncan was coming in as a kindergartner. Your staff did an amazing job of taking all three of my kids, three very different kids with different personalities, different skill sets, and gave them a great education, not only academically, but they are great citizens of the world, and I count Holland Public Schools as part of that. And also, again, thank you for your service to the community. As you know, but I'm not sure that members of the council all know, I'm the son of a superintendent of schools. I grew up in a household where we talked about school issues around the dinner table. It is a hard, difficult, thankless job. Thank you. We appreciate the great work that you've done for the community.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. With that, thanks, Brian.
I'm sorry, I touched the podium. I was going to try not to, but.
I'll spray your hands down.
That's what we do with the kids.
Yeah.
We always walk.
Next item on the agenda, we'll keep moving along because I know that you can multitask, Mr. Van Beek. Item 12A1, redemption of certain City of Holland electric utility system revenue bonds, Series 2014A. Mr. Van Beek, and I think that you're going to pass it off to Mr. Koster.
Yes, I am. Mr. Koster is here. We thought this appropriate to not be one of the items that was on the consent agenda this evening, as this is not only monumental in terms of size of a refunding, but I know I'm not talking about you, Dave. You kind of turned.
You can if you want.
Well, I thought I was
Yes.
like, but monumental. I mean, this is a big moment, so we thought it appropriate to have Dave here, and.
I'm smiling under the mask.
Well, I
Yes.
could tell,
Yes.
but I mean,
All right.
we have, so certainly welcome Dave to come and present this, and also it's by recommendation and action of the Holland Board of Public Works Governing Board.
Yeah. Welcome, Dave.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to come in tonight and share some, I think, very exciting news and a recommendation for your consideration. So it's been about a decade, really, in the planning here. About a decade ago, the community, really, this was a collective effort of stakeholders in our community got together to really decide on a comprehensive plan for meeting their electricity needs going forward. It was within the context of a larger community plan, which we've talked about tonight. It was an evaluation that looked at a number of different scenarios, and it considered not just the financial costs and benefits, but the social, economic, and environmental costs and benefits, both direct and indirect, to the Holland community. And it was, we call it the sustainable return on investment analysis, was really kind of groundbreaking in terms of utilities using that kind of model to look at, their plans going forward. What did it lead to? It led to the closure of the James D. Young Power Plant, the coal plant here in town. It led to the acquisition of over 32 megawatts of wind generation through a couple of contracts, and that would just supplement other resources that we had that were renewable at the time. And it led to the development and construction of Holland Energy Park, which, again, through significant stakeholder engagement, realized the potential to be, first and foremost, a world-class, efficient energy resource for our community. Not just electric. I use the word energy because it's supplying a lot of heat for snowmelt and also for heating our civic center, if people didn't know that. And also it became an opportunity to revitalize our eastern gateway to our community. And thirdly, it became a destination, a park-like setting that builds on a continuous connection to the community through the walking trails that are there, through natural landscape that demonstrates best practices for stormwater management and sustainable vegetation management, and that borders on wetlands and marshes to the north with the prospect of being eventually a connection to the wider Macatawa Greenway. And it's been a destination also to thousands of kids and adults who have been able to experience Energy Alley, the park's visitor education center. Unfortunately closed right now, but we hope to be open soon again post-pandemic for that. In 2014, shortly after the property was acquired for the plant, the community issued bonds to finance the planned $240 million plant. About $160 million worth of revenue bonds were sold to supplement the roughly $80 million of electric utility cash reserves that were in place. We originally planned to pay off these bonds over a 25-year time frame. Normally, bonds that are sold that way also have what's called a call option after 10 years, meaning you have to wait that period of time in order to do anything with them, to refinance them or redeem them or just pay them off. For some of our planning, we saw the possibility that if the plant came in at the cost that was projected, and if the performance met what the expectations were, and if natural gas prices remained relatively in check, we might have a possibility of reducing the debt load earlier. And so we explored selling the bonds with a different type of call option, one that it would be 7 years as opposed to 10. And when we looked at the cost, really it didn't affect the interest rates of the bonds, so that's how we actually proceeded. We sold the bonds with a 7-year call option. As it turned out, since the 7 years that we sold those, I think for the result of really solid planning, solid execution, and maybe a little bit of luck, the plant came in at the projected cost to build it. The operation of the plant has been outstanding, and natural gas prices have remained lower than predicted. So now we're at the point where we can realize the benefits of a community decision-making here in Holland. Holland's electric portfolio has reduced its carbon intensity by 46%. We've eliminated emissions of sulfur dioxide, mercury, and lead from local power generation resources. Since Holland Energy Park began operations in 2017, BPW customers have only seen flat or lower rates for electricity. We actually dropped rates 6% in 2018. Now we have an opportunity to pay off a significant amount of this debt, about $91 million, which represents maturities within the bonds that have interest rates between 4 and 5%. Paying these bonds off now will save over $40 million in interest charges over what would have been the life of those bonds. We actually hope to and plan to pay off the remainder, about $40 million more, over the next 2 years. In the budget that was passed, oh, and by the way, along with the performance, just another key part is that we've actually been able to sell some wholesale power, which has also brought back additional monies in terms of the dividend payment to the city, which we're, I know, setting aside for things like Municipal Capital Improvement Fund, potential debt retirement in the city, or potential regional initiatives, all of which help lower the tax burden for citizens within Holland. In the budget that was passed by the board and now for your consideration over the next couple of months, we are planning this year, along with the debt retirement, a 10% reduction in rates. Should you approve the budget and associated rates, the average customer, residential customer, will save about $70 a year in electric charges, which is welcome good news in a difficult year. Retiring the debt will also allow us to be nimble as a utility in a quickly changing world, as we've talked about tonight and heard about in terms of the science on climate and the moves that are happening in changes in electric portfolios. Having no debt around our neck will help us be nimble. The request tonight is that you adopt an attached resolution which would direct the BPW General Manager to give instructions to call the bonds and to accomplish the redemption on July 1 of this year. Authorize the General Manager and Finance Director of the BPW to execute escrow agreements with Huntington Bank, and authorize the BPW General Manager and Finance Director to carry out that redemption at that time in July. The board has adopted this resolution on March 8, and the City Council tonight is considering and would act upon that same resolution. And with that good news, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions from council members?
I got one.
Yes, Nikki.
Just a curiosity. The Energy Park started in 2017.
Correct.
And the bonds were
sold in 2014.
2014.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we sold them to raise the money for buying the major equipment and then to construct the plant, so we're using those funds over the period of time from 2014
and
2017, I'm sorry.
Okay, at that time, Holland had to approve that.
Yes,
bond.
but we
Did all
appro-
the municipalities too, and out of all the areas that you service have to approve that too, or just Holland?
No, the city of Holland has the authority to issue the revenue bonds, and so the BPW and the city council passed the resolution to issue the revenue bonds. There's an option on any of these revenue bonds for a referendum to be called, but there wasn't a request for a referendum when those bonds were sold.
Any other questions? Dave, this is big news. This is great for the taxpayers. I think it's great for the utility. Congratulations on being a good steward of the resources and a good planner and a good executor and administrator of that plan and making that happen. There's a term that you used in the March 8 meeting that I made a point of bringing out, and you used it again tonight, and I don't know whether you slipped it in there and tried to get it past council or not. I don't know if council mentioned it, that used the term nimble. Nimble's not usually a term that we use when we're talking about a public utility.
No, it's not.
But I think that's a very accurate term in terms. You guys are planners right down to everything. But I think it's great that you also think of the utility as being nimble and being able to adapt to the changing society and the changing world and changing environment. So we appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Trethewey.
Along with that, I'll have to say that the board has always done that. Nimble has been part of the genetics of the board way back
Sets them apart.
when I was
Yeah.
a pup way back.
Was there
Yes.
electricity back then?
We had to.
We started with water.
It was
so-
it was a water wheel.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
But no, that's one of the great things that the board has done for the city and the citizens for a very, very, very long time. So it's natural.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. We need a motion, I believe. You want technicality? Yes.
Mr. City Attorney, there's two resolutions. One motion can cover both of them since they're related, or you need two separate.
Because they're related, addressing the same subject, you can do one motion for both.
Perfect.
But if anyone wants to vote separately on them, then you certainly could separate them too.
Then I will start this off, and hopefully I'll do it without stumbling. Motion to adopt and approve the resolution. First one, authorizing the early redemption of the Holland Electric Utility System Revenue Bond Series 214A. Also going along with that, authorizing the general manager and/or director of finance to give irrevocable instructions to call the bonds. And the second, a resolution adopting and approving redemption of the City of Holland Electric Utility System Revenue Bonds Series 2014A.
Thank you, Mr. Trethewey. There's a motion. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Byrd. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Peters?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Trethewey?
Yes.
Arnshorst?
Yes.
Hoekstra?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Byrd?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Mr. Van Beek, are you waiting for me? All right. You looked like you were ready to say something there.
Mr. Mayor, my fault I didn't bring it to your attention, but we actually skipped receiving and file the written communications, the e-comments tonight. So.
Thank you. Yes, we'll circle back to that before we do 12D1. Item number 9, written petitions and communications. As members of the council know, but members of the general public may not be aware, in the age of COVID, we are trying to allow a variety of ways for people to be able to communicate with council. Not everyone feels comfortable in coming down to City Hall into council chambers. And so we established an email address, publiccomment@cityofholland.com. It's publiccomment@cityofholland.com, where you can send communications to us. We compile those in between the regular meetings, and we accept those at our regular meetings. And I would entertain a motion to do just that.
Motion to adopt the messages sent to us on the website.
All right, moved by Trethewey. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Ernst Horst. I'm going to give that one to you, Nikki. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you for that, Mr. Van Beek. Now I believe we're up to item 12D1, Tulip Time Festival approval of the 2021 contract.
Yes, and we would like to welcome our community partner from Tulip Time, Executive Director Gwen Auerda. This is something that we do every year. The completeness, I guess, of this application is a little altered yet again this year. But we have a lot of staff that are integrated in various ways in supporting Tulip Time, but certainly wanted to give Gwen an opportunity to come before you this evening to talk about not only this application, but Tulip Time in general. So we would welcome Gwen before you tonight.
Welcome, Gwen, and thank you for your patience with us this evening.
Well, thank you. It's amazing that it's been over a year since I've been here to chat with you, and a lot has happened. So we, a year ago, canceled the festival, which you all are very aware of. We had $180,000 in the bank and $400,000 worth of ticket refunds to manage. We filed for every loan, PPP, grant, everything we could. We managed to make it through that, and also embarked on $1 million fundraising campaign in order to get ourselves through 2021. I think I and our board, and I don't know about you, but all felt a year ago that this wasn't gonna still be where we are a year later. Those funds now need to get us through 2022. We've planned, we've scrapped the plan, we've gotten new guidance from the health department, we've planned, we've scrapped the plan, we've gotten new guidance from the health department, and we've scrapped the plan again. It's been an ongoing challenge for the last year to figure out what to do for 2021. And most of our treasured events we are unable to hold, such as parades, Dutch dance, anything that draws large amounts of people in 2021. So we've pivoted as best as we can and innovated and have worked to create some smaller events, such as a walking tour, 2 miles, 2 hours, 12 people, and a costumed guide. Just share with you downtown Holland in tulip lanes and talk about the history and the uniqueness of our community. So we constantly are looking at ways to still celebrate our Dutch heritage, our tulips, and our vibrant community in many, many different ways. That's just one example of new things that we're planning for this next year. So we're here today to give you the plan. It's changed since I put the plan in on Thursday. We found out that we are unable to have our run in person. I do not understand all these guidelines. I'll be frank with you about that. But you are unable to hold a run, 5K run, or any run with more than 300 people in person. We have over 600 signed up. We typically have 3,000 to 4,000 people that run that run, so that will become a virtual event. And again, I'm talking to the health department on a weekly basis, trying to verify and understand the guidelines that are in front of us. So while you have a plan in front of you today, I guarantee it's going to change again. We know the current guidelines are only in effect until April 19. They could open up, which could be great. They could go backwards. We may have to plan and scrap the plan and start over again. So we're trying to be nimble. Hard to say. You know, I use all these words, nimble, pivot, innovate, all that, and I'm tired of all of them, honestly. Seriously. We had a staff of 15 a year ago, and when COVID hit and all the variety of things that have happened since then, I'm down to 4 employees. We were trying to put a festival on with 4 employees, and it's hard. We need volunteers to help us manage many of the events. So if any of you have time and would love to help Tulip Time and volunteer, love to chat with you about that. It's hard. That $1 million we raised has got to get us through 2022 now. And we initially thought that we just needed it to get to May of 2021, and here we are. So I come before you with a plan to tell you I got it today, but it's going to change tomorrow. And the staff at the city has been phenomenal to work with, and I would love an opportunity as things change to just be able to work with the appropriate staff to make those changes, get those approvals in place, and be able to celebrate in May, because the tulips have been planted and they are going to bloom, and they're going to be gorgeous as they are every year.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen.
Any questions before I walk away?
Questions from council members?
No, I just have a comment. It does, the dumb coronavirus, as my 7-year-old granddaughter says, does give us an opportunity to recalibrate a little bit. And I like the idea of a walking tour. And, you know, instead of maybe selling Polish sausages and all, you know, things that we kind of get away from what we are celebrating, I think that's a nice idea. It would be great to have a parade, 1 or 2 or 3, and all the rest of it, you know, that go along. But I think I want to congratulate your creativity and your efforts, and I will sign up on that. I can get my outfit made. You know, Lynn and I have never been in the parade as council
I know, I'm
members.
so sorry. You probably have your costumes already and you haven't worn them yet, so.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Quincy.
I'm gonna encourage you to keep fighting and keep moving forward. COVID, I call it COVID fatigue, and I'm pretty fatigued of it, and I can only imagine with everything you're going through, all the pivoting and being nimble and all that fun stuff, but just continue to fight, and it's almost here, and then you can rest for a little bit. And hopefully next year, we have a full onslaught of tulip time.
You are on my page, so that's what we're trying to do, definitely, for sure. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, go ahead, Raul.
I appreciate you being candid and I think voicing, you know, the reality of what this year has been, because I think while there have been a lot of those opportunities to be innovative, and I think we've done some incredible things just kind of across the board. I mean, as a community, it's been tough. There's no denying that, and I think to be able to name it sometimes and just get it out there, right? And that the reality is it's not over, right? There are still a lot of unknowns as we look forward into the future. But I think one of the things that has made Holland is the fact that we rallied together to get things done. And so you're not, I know you're down to 4, right? But you're not alone. And I think the success of Tulip Time is also on the shoulders of this community at large. So
Thank you so much. The community has been generous. Our sponsors last year, 98% of them turned their sponsorship into a donation. And wow, what a gift that was. And then to raise, honestly, $1 million in the community. So many people said to me, Tulip Time can't go away. And of course, that's near and dear to my heart, right? Obviously. But it was just, I'm so appreciative of the community who has come around and come alongside us to help make this celebration of our community continue to be what it is.
Any other comments? I have a question, and I don't know whether this is for Keith or for Ron, and then I've got a couple of comments to make. Gwen, we know that this is a moving target that you're working with and that it's changing, and I guess my question then sitting here is what are we approving and how open-ended can we make it to be as supportive as possible to the festival? I mean, we're approving a packet. Typically, this is my first time approving a Tulip Time packet, but my understanding is it's usually pretty set, but this one's not going to be. Have we figured out a way to be able to do that?
You have before you a proposed contract that calls for Tulip Time doing certain things, but the description is not down to infinite detail. You know, for example, you know, section C1 talks about a virtual artisan market from April 24 to May 9. I would think there's quite a bit of room in terms of what a virtual artisan market actually is to allow flexibility there. So, you know, and list other things as well there. So there is some flexibility. If the plans change enough where it can't fit within the scope of this contract, then you would always have the opportunity to discuss an amendment with Tulip Time.
Okay. I know that we want to. I know that what I'm hearing around this table is we want to be as supportive as possible and flexible as possible, and I just want to make sure that that's built into this as much as it possibly can be. Good. I'm getting a nod from Mr.
Yeah,
Van Beek,
I think the contract and the situations are set up that way, but we also understand that. So we'll appropriately operate within the framework that's approved tonight. And if we think that there is something that's outside of that, we'll bring that back to you for action.
Okay, great, thank you. And that's one way for this body to be supportive of the festival. We are all going to have some free time during the Tulip Time week that we would not normally have because we would be in parades and doing white glove inspections. I would encourage the members of this body to contact Gwen and find ways to be able to be helpful. It is one of the joys of my life to be an ambassador during the Tulip Time Festival. 2 years ago, I think it was, when the Civic Center was new, I spent many hours just in the lobby of the Civic Center greeting people, and people loved the fact that there was somebody there to be able to talk to them who knew about the city, who knew what was going on. It's a great experience. I'm already familiar with those 2-hour walking tours because I put on my calendar this week a couple that I am scheduled to do for the festival. I would encourage council to do that. Get those Dutch costumes out, get out there, get in the community, because you're going to have a great time, and the people are going to love to see their elected leaders out there. So.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mayor. One thing with a short staff is that I answer the phone all day too. And not only am I trying to schedule porta potties and trash, but I'm doing sponsorship and answering the phone. That's what you do when you have to do it all, which is fabulous. I love it. But people are coming from all over. I talk to people who are saying, we're not traveling like we used to. We want to do weekend trips. We're retired. We want to come for a couple of days. When's the best time? And they know about Tulip Time, and it's just known around the country. People are going to come, and they are going to be here, and we need to put our best foot forward and manage the crowd, right? I mean, there's a lot to go around that, too. So not only do we not have a lot of events, but most people are saying, we just want to come to your community. We want to see the tulips. We want to see the community, and I think they'll have a good time when they're here.
Great. Thank you, Gwen.
Thanks.
Yeah. I believe we need a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Byrd. Is there support? There's support by Trethewey. Any discussion? Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
Yes.
Arnsorst,
Yes.
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Peters, Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item, item 12E, 6.1, gifts. Kathy, would you please review the gifts for us?
The city manager's office is pleased to report the following gifts: Parks and Recreation, Holland and Bloom Program, Ann B. Salyers and Robert J. Johnson in honor of Jody Science, $50. Parks and Recreation, Sal Perez Scholarship Program, cash receipts, reporting dates February 2021, $33. Downtown Group, Windmill Island Gardens, Ruben and Mary Schmidt, $2,000. Downtown Group, Downtown Development Authority to purchase a bench for downtown, Renee A. Suivad on behalf of USPS, $1,980. Public Safety Services, Police Operations, Anonymous Donation, $50. Human Relations Department, Holland Future Links Program, Charles and Sue Dernick, $500. It is recommended that these donations be accepted with appreciation, credited to the appropriate account, and an expression of gratitude be forwarded to said donors.
Thank you, Kathy. Do we have a motion?
Motion to accept with appreciation.
Moved by Trethewey. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Byrd. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 12E, 6.2, permanent special waterfront controls on Lake Macatawa. Adopt a resolution. Mr. Van Beek.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you. This was a topic of a special hearing before our regular meeting today at 6:30. But just in case there's other people viewing, because that meeting was not covered, I'll try to give the executive summary version of what we did earlier. Basically, this starts a process as required by both state law and by the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, the DNR, that would petition the DNR to investigate and ultimately hold a public hearing that they would establish and run here in the local region, because we're asking them to investigate a permanent water control order on Lake Macatawa. We are doing this in conjunction with similar actions as Park Township and Holland Charter Township are doing the same. Specifically in this, what we're asking them to do is consider a triggering effect, whereby if the water is below a certain level, really the historic water control orders that we've had in place would remain. And if the water is above another level, then other control measures would be in place to mitigate the effects of boating on high water. We're doing this now for a couple reasons. One, because we think that this is something that makes sense over the long term, thus the permanent control orders, so that if we do have eventually other instances in a year where there's particularly high water, that you have the flexibility, the nimbleness is kind of the term of the night, that we would be able to respond to those. But there's the additional complication where last year you will recall that you and both townships, Park and Holland Charter, adopted temporary control orders because of the particularly high water situation that we had last year. This process that you're initiating tonight for permanent control orders needs to be started, and a local hearing by the DNR needs to occur before you could ask for those temporary control orders to be used for a second year. In other words, this coming boating season in 2021. So there's a couple things going on here, but really this would be an action that we're certainly recommending, but that you would need to take care of instances potentially 2022 and beyond. But it is also necessary that we could possibly find temporary relief in 2021. So if there are any questions, I'd certainly be happy to answer those. Otherwise, you do have the report and the resolution in front of you. And I'm happy to try to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you, Keith. Any questions, comments for Keith?
No, I think they've all been answered. Thank you. I like getting ahead of this a little bit. Yeah.
We're trying. Some may say that we're behind, and I've been working hard on this already for a couple months, so we're pushing.
I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion in regard to this item.
Motion to adopt a resolution requesting the Michigan DNR to hold a public hearing to inquire to the need of for permanent special controls on Lake Macatawa, City of Holland, County of Ottawa, State of Michigan.
Thank you, Mr. Tathui. Is there support? Support. Support by Mr. Hoekstra. Any discussion? Seeing none, Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Truthui.
Yes.
Arnsorst.
Yes.
Hoekstra.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Byrd.
Yes.
Peters. Garcia.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item, item number 13, communications from the city manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, and I know the time, and I know that we still have things to do, but I do find it necessary to give you at least a couple updates on two different items, and I'll just narrow it down to those two. First, just so you're aware, it is, from my perspective, very nice to be back with you all this evening. I think it's makes for better governance. I do want to let you know something, though, that's happening kind of in the background. And I don't think it necessarily impacts the decision that you've made to meet. But remember, we have, it seems like some days, no limit of other boards, committees, and commissions that are within the city structure that also meet. And I think all or at least the vast majority, I can think of maybe like one or perhaps two, has really, and even when you think back in 2020 when we were still meeting in this format, they were meeting virtually. And I think in most of those instances, that was the right decision for those groups in those times and for what they do. What's happening though right now is at the state level, the legislature has in front of them currently a law that would extend the sunset that currently expires on March 31, that would allow such meetings as this, but quite frankly, other government open meetings virtually. And it is somewhat unclear as to if the legislature is going to act on that or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let you know informationally. I really don't think it's going to come to a situation where there's any action that you would need to take. But as much as I love to be with you in these meetings, I think having the flexibility to allow most of our other boards, committees, and commissions to meet virtually is wise and good. So first, if state legislature does extend that sunset, we would be okay. Second, if that doesn't happen, under the current law, there needs to be a local state of emergency. And if there is a local state of emergency, then you can continue those virtual meetings without any other action. Ottawa County is where all of our meetings occur functionally, because we're in, and I know that we're spread across 2 counties, but City Hall is located here where those meetings occur. I've been in communication with the county administrator, and they expect that they will take action here, I think next week, to extend that local state of emergency at the county level, which they've had in place now for over a year. And if that goes as expected, then we're also good and we don't have to do anything. Okay, legislature doesn't act, the county doesn't do what we expect. The next thing that we can do is, you will recall that there is the opportunity where the mayor and I, per our charter, can declare a local state of emergency, and then we would come back to you to basically, I'm blanking on the word.
Ratify?
Ratify, there you go, Mr. Mayor, thank you. And so we could also do that in pretty quick order without any really pre-action. And again, I will say I don't know what the state's gonna do, but I really think that the county action is gonna take care of us. And this is just gonna kinda be fine in the background, and you probably never would otherwise know. But I just wanted to let you know that we're monitoring that very closely. And I think we have actions available to us. Because again, I think that that our board committees and commission meetings underneath council really should have that option, in most cases meet virtually. So I just wanted to let you know that we're monitoring that. I think we'll be okay, but I thought that was worth an update. The second is, I think all of you are aware and have had some level of different communication, but one element of the American Rescue Plan Act that maybe, there's a lot of elements that are still kind of trickling down, but there is an element where all 19,000 municipal, and when I say municipal, county, city, village, township, town, lots of different versions of municipal governments nationwide are all getting direct payments through that federal act. Myself and Finance Director McCammon have been following that also very closely after the last several weeks. And while I would love to say that it's all very clear and defined and the regulations understood, for some of you that were on the MML legislative conference yesterday, you know that that's not exactly true yet, that there's lots of questions yet to be understood and handed down. But the preliminary news, I'll just say, is extremely good, in that it appears that we may be receiving $8.1 million. Now, just a few things that I say, and then this is definitely going to be a topic of more conversation. One, the methodology that's being used, in case you hear it, is the Community Development Block Grant, or the CDBG program. But please, that is only the methodology they're using to determine the money and distribute the money to entitlement communities like what we are. It has nothing to do otherwise with all the things that you think of with CDBG restrictions or goals or anything like that. It's just the methodology, because quite frankly, the federal government for now going on 40 years doesn't have a methodology to distribute money to local governments. But the CDBG is a program that in some cases, and us being an entitled community, qualify. The other thing is there are an emerging list of, you can't use it for this list of things. And there's a fuzzy list of, but you can use it for this, we think. I will punctuate a few things though. One, it's very clear that the primary purpose of the funds is to, just like there's been funds distributed to other organizations and you know, sectors of the economy and persons and nonprofits, this is the way to basically fill the gaps that we've had in revenue. And it's also intended to cover any losses in revenue in those gaps through the end of calendar year 2024, which is a couple fiscal years yet. So I realize, and we've already had some phone calls that indicate that when there apparently is a windfall, there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of really good ideas about, well, you should use that money for fill in the blank. And while we're definitely going to be getting more information for all of this, and we definitely will have all of those communications update with you on what those limitations are, we'll also make some recommendations somewhat in the budget process, but quite frankly, I'm thinking we'll get through the budget process and we'll really zero in on this even after the budget. You know, I would definitely encourage us to take our time, have patience, and be strategic in the use of this money so that it's adds to kind of the transformative type, taking a chance of opportunities that we have. And I think this is one of those opportunities. But there's just so much uncertainty, as we've talked about already tonight, especially as it relates to, have we seen the bottom and what the revenue impacts on us are going to be. So just wanted to give you some of that initial information. I know you probably have lots and lots of questions, and I'll do my best to try to answer those now, or if you want to talk to me or send me, you know, notes, or we can talk about it again in the future. This, like I said, is not, it's new news, but this is going to be with us for some time, so I would definitely encourage, and I know that as a staff perspective, we're really taking our time to understand it and really use this as a strategic opportunity. And that's enough, so I will stop there, and happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Any questions for Keith? Great, thanks, Keith. I have one thing. I know that the council's aware of the fact that the Civic Center has been doing COVID vaccination clinics on Wednesdays. Today was their fourth. I believe their goal today was between 2,200 and 2,300 shots. They gave both the Pfizer shot downstairs and Moderna shots upstairs. I had the honor and the privilege of being one of the recipients of a shot today, and I can tell you, they've got it down pat. Chris Hart and his crew from the Civic Center are working hand in hand with Ottawa County, working hand in hand with the National Guard. It's great to see local, county, and federal government all working together. They got people in and out. I was in and out in less than a half an hour, and that included a 15-minute wait after the shot. They're hoping they're going to be able to open up more times, more days. But when you think about it, 2,300 shots is about, 7% of the population of the city of Holland. Now, they're doing countywide folks, so those weren't all city folks that were there, but they're making a significant dent, and we owe them a big debt of gratitude. And it is a phenomenal use of that facility. It was wonderful to pull in and have a difficult time finding a parking spot in the parking lot at the Civic Center. It has not been that way for a year, and that's a great use of that facility. So I just wanted to share that with everyone. They're going to be doing more as they're coming up. Look for text messages. The system, once you get an appointment, Mike, the system is really good. I got multiple text message reminders. I got multiple email reminders. They even texted me a half an hour before my appointment saying, "Hey, don't forget to get down to the Civic Center to get your shot." So they're doing a great job with the communication piece of it. And that's all that I have. Appointments, motions, communications from council members. Yes, go ahead, Nikki.
I wasn't going to, and now I am. And I'm conscious of the time. I'm also conscious that we kind of got beat up tonight. So I'm going to report on the strategic development team meeting that was held Monday. We continue to plow through information. And this time we essentially reviewed what had been done in the residential arena regarding insulation. We looked at building labeling, Department of Energy scores, energy optimization with energy waste reduction, which shows up in a surcharge on your bill. By 2025, 35% of energy has to be from a combination of renewables and energy efficiency. Later, we will look forward to engaging with business people, like was mentioned at one of the public comment who are working on this also, and send out a sample survey to residents. I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and because of a session I attended yesterday at the MML CapCon, this one was on truth and trust, primarily related to, and I think someone mentioned that too, related to our constituents. So if a constituent asks you, "I've got this great idea, can we do this?" And you say, "Yeah, I'll look into that." You don't really mean it. Tell them the truth. It's difficult at first, but will make life easier and better. And so I will say, when I give these reports, I'm going to use the truth on myself with you. I wish this would be going faster. I wish it was, I'm feeling a little frustrated. I want a goal. I want markers and, road marks. We haven't really set a goal per se, except research and go through this. I bring this up every once in a while. No one else seems to have a problem with it, so we just move on. I'm a team player, but I want you to know that this is kind of my undercurrent, and I don't know if that comes through. I do know we have more work ahead to evaluate the good things we've done, and this is not a criticism of either the city or BPW. The BPW is very well organized, has made great strides throughout the years to become more energy efficient and reduce our carbon footprint. So this isn't a complaint. It's just, in the interest of no surprises. So when we start discussing this, I'm kind of on the side that says there's climate change and let's go through this. It's not that hard. There are only so many things that really need to be done, and we can figure this out. I think Dave Koster is an amazing person who has things figured out, and I want this to happen. That's part of my impatience, but and I want some of that money. Expense should not be a deterrent for when we have great plans. I remember you saying at the beginning, think big, go big, and we're not quite quite there yet, and maybe that comes at the end. It's just not my personal bent to start an effort without a mission, without an actual goal. So we'll continue, and that's my background. I just wanted to, my one-time accompaniment to all my dry reports. Yes?
Go ahead, Mr. Van Beek.
The only thing I'll say, because, and I actually was like, oh, I should have said one thing that's on that list of, Nikki, one thing that we probably know already is that, and I know you said that with a smile on your face and a lilt in your voice, but I do not believe that any of the money that I just mentioned to you is available there.
I'm just teasing. Yes.
I know, but I also know that
Okay.
how
People take things
out
literally,
there,
yes.
right?
I have a great
where
idea, yes.
I'm quite confident that it appears that nothing would be available for those purposes. But I will say, and I probably should have mentioned earlier, it's interesting that one thing that's very clearly on the list that's in the federal legislation that says you can use it for is broadband.
Yeah.
So the timing and the potential opportunity is there. But again, we have time, so I certainly don't want that to be like, oh, like, hey, we found a whole pot of money to push right there. But it is interesting. And Nikki, I didn't mean that to push back on you, because I heard your voice and I understand your voice, but I just wanted to make clear for everybody.
Correct. I think I know money is set aside in the budget for whatever, for the CEP. And I just, I don't know where we get more money, but we may, if we agree on a more area-wide type of efficiencies. For instance, I know, like, we haven't talked about this in the group, but like the district heating, which is going on at the Civic Center, if we decide on something big like that, you know, we would have to find the money. You have a vision, and not from the Recovery Act, of course, but I just want to have us think about all this. We need a goal, and we need to work toward it, and we need to say climate change is informing our decisions here. So, thank you.
Thank you.
And
Any other council members? Yes, Mr. Berg.
I want to address the group that came in earlier today. I think I've spoke about how this deportation has hit me in my life. I had a really good friend who was deported, and we spent a little over a year driving back to Lansing and Detroit trying to get him back with his family. And he ended up being deported. He ended up deported, and he had 4 kids. And his son just turned into a hellion just because his dad wasn't there. And so, you know, that I got to see that firsthand. So it was kind of, wasn't fun for anybody. And that family still reels from that. So I understand that aspect. But the one thing I don't understand is to have people come in here and start throwing around racial accusations that really didn't include me because I'm not white, but at this board. And to me, there's 2 minorities on this board. So to be very blunt, you need to pick a different angle if you want to be heard and be taken seriously. I asked this group before, well, we made the comment that, you know, as a council, and they brought this up as well, but as a council, we don't entertain, I won't say entertain, we don't give our support behind special interest groups, regardless of what they are. And a couple of special interest groups that kind of drove this were white groups that were asking for support behind the barn at Van Raalte, and also the movie for Holland. Those are kind of things that helped us come to the conclusion that we didn't want to support, I'm sorry, again, not support, but yeah, as a council, support or give our, give our support behind special interest groups. So that is, I guess, a very brief synopsis of why we don't do it. But again, when they were here last time, we requested that there was some information exchanged, that as individuals we could support, as individuals we could talk to and understand, but that hasn't happened. Instead, they've come in, and I'm speaking to you guys come in and you start with I guess a chip on your shoulder, disgruntled in a sense, and I've asked for information regarding this to possibly do something, to possibly understand or possibly support, but we haven't gotten that. So I'm going to push back on this group and say, if you come back again, I would expect that you would come back prepared to be able to share information that we've requested, that I've requested, this being my second time. So you never know what will happen if you shared that information. There's 9 of us up here. You might get 9 individuals on our council board who may step in and support you. But you don't know because you haven't given the information that was requested. So again, I'm asking for the information that we as individuals can decide if we want to support it or not. So that will be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Quincy. Yes, Lynn.
I think also, and Quincy, I'm glad you brought it up because I was going to talk about this tonight as well. I also think that there's some frustration on the part of this particular group because what they've been told right from the very beginning is what you're requesting is outside of our operational jurisdiction. And I don't think that's been particularly clearly stated. I appreciate your explanation because I was not on council when that was added. I understand that I voted and approved rules of council this year. It took me, in fact, I had to go to Keith. Nathan had to go to Keith to actually find the line in rules of council. So it's not particularly clear, and it's not particularly clear to me either. And since we're talking about this particular group, while I understand asking us to give them driver's license is certainly outside of our operational jurisdiction, asking us to support a legislation that would give them driver's license, it appears to me, could be in our operational jurisdiction. So I guess what I was going to request tonight at some point, and I don't know if now is the time, is to really have a conversation about whether or not operational jurisdiction should be the line we draw. It feels like a blunt instrument to me, and it doesn't. It's solving for something, and I'm not entirely clear what it's solving for. So I'll just throw that out there and see what you think.
I think that may be something that we want to talk about at a study session, perhaps, so that council members are prepared ahead of time to be able to talk about it.
Sounds good.
You know, and I'm suggesting not necessarily this particular issue or this particular group, but the policy that we have, and taking a look at that policy. And that's, you know, I'm looking kind of for for head nods from folks if they'd like to engage in that conversation, and having our city manager take a look at those head nods as well, and perhaps put something on a study session where council has the opportunity to be able to take a look at that rule, because it's our rule. And it's up to us to make that determination of what our rules are and where we think that those lines are drawn. So, yeah, Dave.
I am.
Along those lines, just as a point of order of sorts, then is it adequate with a sort of ambiguous collection of head nods, or should we make a specific request? Or does it take, will it, I guess I'm asking our master of method here, is a formal,
I'm going to back up and let you
yeah,
see the
watch
master
out
of
for
method
the
directly.
raise going back and forth here. Do we need a formal proposal and a vote, or is it us?
You've given the request to the city manager. That should be fine enough.
That's okay.
That's my
Is that
CGO.
clear? I mean,
Sorry.
no, go ahead.
The way that I always do that is I really rely on your kind of representative, your head, the mayor, to help with that, particularly with matters that you're talking about that you put on study session.
Yeah. Do we have 5?
So, and like how the mayor does that, I rely on him. I get the sense that there's a desire. Now, we've got budget coming up and we've got different things, so always the like, how quickly you put it on. Like, we've got 2 relatively long things on study session next week. And then I know there's people gone the following 2 weeks, and then we jump right into budget review. So happy to do it, and from my perspective, my input on it will be relatively short, because this was an assignment that you all gave me. It was like one of the very first assignments that I got as city manager. And then you guys took action. So for me, it's just creating room for you guys to talk. It's relatively simple.
Is it doable within 60 days?
Oh, I think so. Absolutely.
And it sounds as though you have a pretty clear understanding of what the subject matter is from how you've described it. We want to look at the policy itself.
Right. That's what my thought is that we look at the policy, rather, not necessarily a specific request that's come in, but that we take and understand the policy. We got 5 of us around here that are interested in doing that. I'm getting a 1, I'm getting a nod from Jay and from Quincy. And
You're not going to get an affirmative nod from me, I'll tell you that.
that's all right. I'm looking to see whether there's one there or not. Yeah.
Scott said yes.
I got 5. And I got Dave, and I got Lynn. I got 5. So
I think it's good to do it because, as Lynn stated, she doesn't understand. So that helps. We can have that conversation to get everybody understanding the same. So
We remain nimble.
yeah. So we're requesting, Mr. City Manager, that you find time, hopefully within the next 60 days, because you are the one that sets the agenda with the guidance of council on that, and so we'll find a time to be able to do that.
And just because I like to try to manage expectations, right? Like, I think it would be late April. It might even leak into May, and then we got tulip time misses and everything. So it probably will be, maybe we can fit it in April where we have an opening without budget sessions, but we'll get it in within 60 days. No
Okay.
problem.
All right. Great. Thank you. Yes, Dave.
Thank you.
Can I speak to one more matter, and then that's all I have? That's okay?
Yeah. Oh, certainly. Yes.
Okay, thank you. As we are all aware, our new recycling program is going to be rolling out in the near future. And I think we've probably all gotten some feedback one way or another on that. I paid a visit to a gentleman who's the president of a condo association off of 32nd Street by invitation. And he wanted me to see how the new 90-some container rollout was going to affect him. So I went over and he opened his garage door, and I looked at his garage, which is a typical size for most every unit in this rather large complex. And he said, "Can you explain to me how I'm going to fit a 96 or whatever it is gallon container in here?" And I looked around and I said, "Well, sell a car, and it's simple."
He was not amused.
truthfully, as I looked at his garage, and it was a two-car garage, and there were 2 cars in there, as many of us have more than one vehicle, other than the already present garbage container in there and a few other things, that people keep in their garage, there was no way in the world that he was gonna be able to fit a container. Is that one of them back there? Just, okay. Sorry for the viewing public, you can't see it, but it's a monster. There's no way that he would fit that in his garage. And the condo regulations won't allow them to keep it outside of their garage. So they're in a bit of a conundrum. And frankly, I had no solution for him, other than to say, I'll let my colleagues know what's going on here. I've got pictures I could share at some point, but I know that I voted for this some time ago, as we all did. I know that the group think right now is that the most reasonable thing to do is to roll it out, excuse me, with this common size, and then, sort of see how it goes. And that seems like a reasonable approach. I guess my message tonight is that there are going to be problems, and you can count on it that, as I've seen it, and this was only one condo complex. If it's my house, I can throw a container in the backyard, it's no big deal. But for many other condo complexes, the space is limited for these containers, and it's going to be a real problem. And if our goal is to increase awareness and participation in our recycling efforts, I know we're going to have to give a considerable amount of effort to some proactive thinking about how we're going to address this problem when it inevitably will surface. I don't know if that means bags or smaller containers or what. Take some creative thinking, I'm guessing, but I'm just raising the flag that there's going to be problems with this. So we should be prepared for it, be aware of it. If we can get ahead of it, all the better. So that's that. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Dave. Anyone else? Mike?
Not to prolong things, but if I might address that, which I have done a couple of times, the Materials Task Force is fully aware and had many, many discussions on this specific situation, knowing that this was going to come out, but we had to start someplace. It was the collective intellectual minds that have rolled this out in other communities where it worked. We're not turning a blind eye. I've told the story 100 times where when we first rolled out our waste in the city, everybody had the same size container. Found out very quickly that it was counterproductive for those people that were single family or single person families that did a lot of recycling. Was not real conducive to that message. Dave, I hear what you're saying. I got a number of emails a long time ago, and again, the Materials Task Force is fully aware of that and will be evaluating as this goes, but we had to start someplace. We're hoping that some creative solutions can come out with said associations, and we're there to offer some help if they want to ask some questions on how that might help, or how we might be able to help and suggest to them. But we didn't want to muddy up the waters. Very much like the Strategic Task Force, they've got a goal, they want to get there real quick. We got a goal, we want to get there real quick. Believe it or not, we're all on the same page there.
Except we're not, but, I know.
But that's why the decision was made. The positives for the general city are going to be very, very great. We understand that there's going to be a couple of bumps in the road, and we're fully aware and more than willing to take a look at those as they come up, but we don't know what we don't know until we get there. It's perceived right now because it's different. Very possibly is going to be exactly the way you said, and we'll have to address that. But we're not turning a blind eye to anybody. We have to start someplace.
Good luck.
Thank you for bringing it.
My best.
Thank you, Mike. Raul?
Yeah, just, I don't know, we transitioned topics there, but I want to circle back still to kind of say my piece about the group that was here. So it was one of the things that I was going to bring up as well. And hopefully I can strike, my attempt is to strike a balance between, I think, defending kind of our position and the things that we've attempted to communicate and the way that I think we've responded, but also that we're listening. And it's not falling on deaf ears. And I think, I'm a fan of policies, processes, procedures, and crafting those, crafting those that work well, and hopefully work for as many as possible. I mean, you're always going to have those specific and particular situations that fall outside of that, and you have to figure out how you're going to deal with that. And but policies can also be changed. Rules can be changed. And so I'm glad we're creating that space, because I think we need to have that conversation at the very least to make sure that we continue to be on the same page and that we're making decisions that we all feel confident about. Because I do think that in the way that we've responded, I mean, it's been a year about. I think we've responded appropriately, certainly not inappropriately, but I do wonder if we've responded adequately, with everybody who's come in here. Have we communicated those things in a way that's comprehended well, that they understand, that we understand, and that we're at least, maybe we don't agree with how we move forward, but that we at least understand why. That I think it was a busier night than it was anticipated or expected, and often I think we do get beat up here, and that's kind of that is part of the job. I mean, there's various perspectives, experiences, and everybody's is different, and we've got to learn to decipher those and understand those and make a decision at the end of the day. But I also will reiterate what Quincy was saying. There are, regardless of when this conversation happens and what we decide to do and how we respond and move forward with these kinds of situations, there's still an opportunity for each of us to do something individually. If we have the right information, to be able to make that judgment as individuals, I think that's our prerogative and that's our opportunity, and we can do that. So bringing that information forward to us is going to allow us to do that, and so you don't have to wait for what we do collectively, right? And I'm kind of, again, also addressing those with this interest in this group. Bring it to us, and we'll do what we can while we figure it out collectively.
Thank you, Raul. Anyone else? All right. I will entertain a motion to go into a closed session to review a written legal opinion with the city attorney. No, we don't have to. We're in charge. We're in charge up here. We can do or not do whatever we want on the agenda.
So moved for the reasons stated.
Moved by Trethewey. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Hoekstra. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Garcia.
Is there a bathroom break at some point in here?
Yes,
Yep.
We'll do that. Why don't we do that?
Yeah, and what I would recommend, and just before people sign off and everything, and Rick is behind the scenes, and before you take the motion, there's nothing on the agenda of taking action when you come back. The only action that you would take when you come back is to adjourn, and I bet Mayor was probably just going to say that.
Just about to say that, yes.
But if we pair a bathroom break with Rick being allowed to shut down the live feed, that probably kind of handles a couple things at the same time. But just for the viewing public, know when we shut this down, we're not going to come back and only have a motion to adjourn.
I will reiterate what you just said. There will not be any business conducted other than to go back into session and to adjourn the meeting following the closed session. Yes, Mr. Trethewey.
I'm going to question this, that we can go into a closed session and leave the room.
Well, I think you can always take a break, and that's, I think, what you want to do.
It's a question of privilege.
Yeah, sure. And you've done that in the middle of meetings before.
During a
where they've
closed
gone
session?
long.
During a regular
can't-
session we have, not a closed
We
session.
have, yeah. I'm just trying to think of any closed session examples. You can
That was
take
my
a break
question.
before
I'm
you
not,
go into
I
closed
guess I'm
session.
recommending you don't have to worry about that. If we
Yeah.
just understand we're gonna do this, if we shut down the TV, Rick does his thing, you guys take a break, you come back, you actually take the formal motion to go into closed session.
We can, why don't we hold off on the vote? We'll pause the vote on this.
Oh, good idea.
And until we take a break, and we'll take the vote on the entering the closed session immediately following the break. Can we do that, Mr. CGO?
Something just doesn't feel right here, Ron. I don't know. It's, I mean, if we could take the vote to adjourn the meeting, knowing we were going into, then shut things off, but then we don't have a public vote out there to go into the closed session.
Yeah, you can't adjourn the meeting. Yeah, and you're not adjourning the meeting, you're just taking a break, a 5-minute break for restroom break or whatever.
Prior
Drink.
to going into the closed session.
Right.
Okay, if it's
Right.
stated that.
So we
way.
take, okay, so we're gonna take the vote, and then we're gonna take a short break
Yeah.
before we then officially enter the closed session, but nothing will happen between that vote and the entering the closed session other than the break.
Excuse me, if I can elongate this a little bit.
Yeah,
further.
certainly, yes, let's stretch this out.
Could we make the motion to go into closed session after a 5-minute break? Would that make it easier?
It on my end, it doesn't make any difference. I think it just means that Rick is sitting there waiting to shut things
Just wanna
down.
make Mike feel good.
Yeah, honestly, we've got two things there. One is you gotta have time for Rick to shut things down. And secondly, in the past, when we used to go upstairs to the training room for a closed session, we always did the same thing, without
Okay.
worrying about
This
it.
is a similar.
All right, so I'm gonna call the roll on the vote, and then we're gonna take a short break while they shut down the video. Folks can use the restroom, and then we'll come back, do the closed session. When we adjourn the closed session, there will be no official business other than to adjourn the meeting itself. All right, Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Arnshorst,
Yes.
Hoekstra,
Yes?
Raymond,
Yes.
Byrd,
Yes.
Peters, Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you.
Say goodnight, Rick.